What if the creatures that haunt our darkest nightmares were more than just stories? What if the howl of a wolf under a full moon wasn't just a sound, but a warning? Tonight, we dive into the shadowy world of werewolves, beings that have prowled the edges of human imagination for centuries. From ancient myths to modern horror, these shapeshifters have captivated and terrified us, embodying our deepest fears of the wild, the unknown, and the beast within. But where did these legends begin? What truths lie buried beneath the fur and fangs of folklore? Join us as we uncover the true origins and history of werewolves, exploring their cultural significance, the mystery of their transformations, and why they continue to stalk our stories to this day. By the end of this journey, you might just find yourself glancing over your shoulder the next time the moon rises. Stay with us. This is one tale you won't want to miss. Now, let's step back in time to uncover the ancient roots of werewolf myths. Long before werewolves became staples of horror and Halloween, they appeared in some of the earliest stories ever told. One of the oldest known references comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, a Mesopotamian tale dating back over 4,000 years. In this ancient epic, the goddess Ishtar transforms a shepherd into a wolf as punishment, marking one of the first recorded instances of a human turning into a beast. This idea of transformation, of crossing the boundary between human and animal, would echo through countless cultures and stories, planting the seeds for the werewolf legends we know today. But the werewolf myth didn't stop there. In Greek mythology, we find another pivotal story, the tale of Lycaon, a king who dared to test the gods. According to legend, Lycaon served Zeus a meal made from human flesh, an act so horrifying that Zeus transformed him into a wolf as punishment. This myth not only introduced the concept of lycanthropy, the transformation of a human into a wolf, but also tied it to themes of divine retribution and the loss of humanity. The name Lycaon itself even gave rise to the term lycanthrope, which we still use today to describe werewolves. These early stories from Mesopotamia and Greece laid the groundwork for the werewolf archetype. They introduced the idea that humans could become wolves, often as a result of curses, divine punishment, or supernatural forces. These tales weren't just about fear, they were also about exploring the boundaries of humanity, the consequences of hubris, and the thin line between civilization and savagery. As we'll see, these themes would continue to evolve, shaping the werewolf legends that would spread across the world and endure for centuries. But for now, let's turn our attention to how these myths took on new life in the cultures of ancient Rome and beyond. Now, as we venture further into the world of ancient mythology, we find ourselves in the heart of Greek and Roman tales, where the werewolf myth takes on even greater depth and complexity. The story of Lycaon, the king transformed into a wolf by Zeus, is one of the most iconic in Greek mythology. According to the legend, Lycaon's crime was not just an act of hubris, but a direct challenge to the gods. By serving Zeus a meal made from human flesh, Lycaon committed an unspeakable act of sacrilege. In response, Zeus didn't just punish him, he stripped away his humanity, turning him into a wolf. This transformation wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, representing the loss of reason, morality, and the very essence of what it means to be human. The name Lycaon itself became synonymous with the concept of lycanthropy, a term we still use today to describe the transformation of humans into wolves. But the Greeks weren't the only ones fascinated by the idea of shape-shifting. The Romans, who often borrowed and adapted Greek myths, added their own unique spin to the werewolf legend. One of the most famous Roman accounts comes from the writings of the poet Ovid, who recounted the tale of a man named Arcas. In this story, Arcas is transformed into a bear, but the themes of transformation and divine punishment echo those found in the Lycaon myth. The Romans also had their own stories of werewolves, often tied to rituals and curses. For example, the Roman author Petronius wrote about a soldier who, after witnessing a strange ritual, turned into a wolf and roamed the countryside. These tales often emphasize the idea that werewolf transformations were not just acts of divine retribution, but also the result of dark magic or curses. What's fascinating about these Roman interpretations is how they reflect the cultural fears and values of the time. Werewolves weren't just monsters, they were symbols of chaos, a reminder of what could happen when the boundaries between human and beast, order and disorder, were crossed. The Romans saw these transformations as warnings against hubris, against defying the gods, and against the dangers of losing one's humanity. These stories also highlight the dual nature of werewolves, creatures caught between two worlds, embodying both the wildness of nature and the fragility of human civilization. As we move forward, we'll see how these ancient myths evolved and spread, influencing the werewolf legends of medieval Europe and beyond. But for now, let's turn our attention to the Norse myths, where warriors donned wolf pelts and embraced the spirit of the wolf in battle. Now, as we journey northward into the frostbitten lands of Norse mythology, we encounter a different kind of werewolf legend, one not born of divine punishment, but of fierce warrior culture. Here, the werewolf archetype takes on a more deliberate and even revered form, embodied by the Berserkers and the úlfhéðnar. These were not cursed individuals, but warriors who willingly embraced the spirit of the wolf, donning its pelt and channeling its ferocity in battle. The Berserkers, whose name means bear shirts, are often more associated with bears, but their counterparts, the úlfhéðnar, or wolf coats, were equally feared and respected. These warriors were said to enter a trance-like state, often described as a form of battle frenzy, where they would fight with the strength and savagery of wolves. Clad in wolf pelts, they were believed to be possessed by the spirit of the animal, gaining its speed, ferocity, and unrelenting nature. This transformation wasn't a curse, it was a choice, a way to harness the primal power of the wolf for the sake of victory. What's fascinating about the úlfhéðnar is how they blurred the line between human and beast. In their frenzied state, they were said to lose all sense of fear and pain, becoming almost invincible on the battlefield. This wasn't just physical transformation, it was a psychological one, where the warrior's mind became as wild and untamed as the wolf itself. The Norse saw this as a form of sacred madness, a gift from the gods that allowed these warriors to transcend their human limitations. But why wolves? In Norse culture, the wolf held a dual symbolism. On one hand, wolves like Fenrir were seen as agents of chaos, destined to bring about the end of the world during Ragnarok. On the other hand, wolves were also symbols of loyalty, cunning, and survival traits that any warrior would aspire to embody. The úlfhéðnar, by adopting the wolf spirit, were tapping into this duality, becoming both protectors and destroyers, depending on the needs of the moment. This Norse interpretation of the werewolf archetype adds a unique layer to the myth. Unlike the cursed figures of Greek and Roman tales, the úlfhéðnar were celebrated, their transformations seen as a mark of honor and strength. They remind us that the werewolf myth isn't just about fear or punishment, it's also about power, transformation, and the thin line between humanity and the wild. As we move forward, we'll see how these warrior traditions influenced the werewolf legends of medieval Europe, where the myth takes a darker, more sinister turn. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate how the Norse reimagined the werewolf, not as a monster, but as a symbol of unyielding strength and the untamed spirit of the wild. Now, as we step into the shadowy world of medieval Europe, the werewolf myth takes a darker and more sinister turn. Here, the werewolf was no longer a symbol of strength or a warrior's ally. It became a creature of fear, tied to accusations of witchcraft, heresy, and the devil himself. This shift reflects the anxieties of a society gripped by superstition and religious fervor, where the line between myth and reality often blurred. One of the most chilling examples of this era is the case of Peter Stump, a German farmer whose trial in the late 16th century became one of the most infamous werewolf cases in history. Stump was accused of being a werewolf, a witch, and a murderer, with claims that he had made a pact with the devil. According to the accusations, Stump had been transforming into a wolf for over 25 years, terrorizing the countryside, killing livestock, and even attacking humans. His trial was a spectacle of fear and paranoia, with gruesome details of his supposed crimes and confessions extracted under torture. In the end, Stump was executed in a brutal manner, his body broken on the wheel and his head displayed as a warning to others. But why did medieval Europe become such a hotbed for werewolf hysteria? The answer lies in the intersection of religion, superstition, and societal fears. The Church played a significant role in shaping the narrative, linking werewolves to witchcraft and demonic possession. Werewolves were seen as agents of the devil, their transformations a sign of moral corruption and spiritual decay. This association with heresy made the werewolf a convenient scapegoat for unexplained tragedies, from crop failures to mysterious deaths. The fear of werewolves also reflected deeper anxieties about the natural world and humanity's place within it. In a time when forests were vast and untamed, wolves were both a real and symbolic threat. The idea that a person could become a wolf tapped into fears of losing control, of the wild overtaking the civilized. Werewolves embodied the chaos lurking at the edges of society, a reminder of the fragility of human order. As we move forward, we'll see how these fears and associations continued to shape werewolf legends, weaving them into the fabric of European folklore. But for now, the story of Peter Stump and the medieval werewolf trials serves as a stark reminder of how myth and fear can intertwine, creating monsters not just in the shadows, but in the minds of those who believe in them. As we leave the dark forests of medieval Europe behind, we find ourselves stepping into the rich tapestry of folklore and fairy tales, where the werewolf myth takes on new life and meaning. Across the continent, stories of werewolves became deeply embedded in local traditions, each culture adding its own unique twist to the legend. These tales often served as cautionary stories, reflecting the fears, values, and beliefs of the communities that told them. In France, the legend of the loup-garou became one of the most enduring werewolf myths. The loup-garou was often portrayed as a cursed individual, doomed to transform into a wolf under the light of the full moon. These stories frequently revolved around themes of punishment and redemption, with the curse serving as a consequence for moral failings or sinful behavior. For example, one popular tale tells of a man who, after committing a grave sin, is cursed to become a loup-garou. His only hope for salvation lies in breaking the curse through an act of great courage or sacrifice, a recurring motif in many werewolf stories. Meanwhile, in Slavic folklore, the Vukodlak emerged as a central figure in werewolf mythology. Unlike the cursed loup-garou, the Vukodlak was often seen as a more ambiguous figure, sometimes a victim of circumstance, and other times a willing participant in dark magic. In some tales, The úlfhéðnar was a person who had been bitten by a wolf or had consumed wolf's flesh, leading to their transformation. In others, they were sorcerers who used their wolf-like abilities to protect their villages from evil spirits or rival clans. This duality, both protector and predator, made the úlfhéðnar a complex and fascinating character in Slavic lore. A common thread running through these stories is the theme of transformation, both physical and spiritual. The act of becoming a werewolf was often tied to a loss of control, a descent into primal instincts that mirrored the struggle between civilization and the wild. This idea resonated deeply in societies where the natural world was both a source of sustenance and a place of danger. Werewolves became symbols of the thin line between humanity and savagery, a reminder of the chaos that could erupt if that line were crossed. Another recurring theme in these tales is the idea of the curse, whether inflicted by a witch, a vengeful spirit, or the result of a personal failing. The curse of lycanthropy was often portrayed as inescapable, a fate that could only be broken through extraordinary means. This added an element of tragedy to the werewolf myth, as many of these characters were not inherently evil, but were instead victims of forces beyond their control. As we continue to explore the evolution of werewolf legends, it's clear that these stories were more than just entertainment. They were a way for people to make sense of the world around them. Through the lens of folklore, werewolves became a means of exploring human fears, desires, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. And as we'll see next, this fascination with transformation and the supernatural would only grow stronger as werewolves found their way into the pages of literature, where their stories would take on new dimensions and meanings. Now, as we turn our gaze to the night sky, we find one of the most iconic symbols of the werewolf myth, the full moon. This celestial body has long been associated with mystery, magic, and transformation, and its connection to werewolves is deeply rooted in both folklore and human psychology. But how did the full moon become so intertwined with the idea of lycanthropy? To understand this, we need to explore the cultural and symbolic significance of the moon across different societies. In many ancient cultures, the moon was seen as a powerful force that influenced the natural world. Its cycles were tied to the rhythms of life. Tides rose and fell, crops grew, and even human behavior was thought to be affected by its phases. The full moon, in particular, was often associated with heightened emotions, erratic behavior, and even madness. This belief gave rise to the term lunacy, derived from the Latin word luna, meaning moon. It's no surprise, then, that the full moon became a natural symbol for transformation, especially one as dramatic as turning into a wolf. In European folklore, the full moon's role in werewolf stories became particularly prominent. Many tales describe the transformation as being triggered by the light of the full moon, a moment when the boundary between the human and animal worlds seemed to blur. This idea was reinforced by the moon's association with the night, a time when the wild and untamed aspects of nature were thought to be at their strongest. The full moon became a kind of celestial clock, marking the moment when the curse of lycanthropy would take hold, forcing the afflicted to confront their primal instincts. But the connection between the full moon and werewolves goes beyond mere symbolism. In some stories, the moon was believed to have a direct, almost magical influence on those cursed with lycanthropy. For example, in certain Slavic traditions, it was said that the light of the full moon could awaken the wolf within, even in those who had managed to suppress their transformations. This added an element of inevitability to the curse, as the moon's cycles were beyond human control. much like the forces of nature itself. The full moon also served as a powerful metaphor for the duality of human nature. Just as the moon has its light and dark sides, so too do werewolves embody the struggle between civilization and savagery, reason and instinct. The full moon's brightness, illuminating the night, could be seen as a moment of clarity, a time when the werewolf's true nature was revealed, for better or worse. This duality made the full moon an essential element of the werewolf myth, one that continues to captivate our imaginations to this day. As we move forward, we'll see how this connection between the full moon and werewolves was further cemented in literature and popular culture, shaping the way we think about these creatures even now. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate how the moon, a constant presence in our night sky, became a timeless symbol of transformation, mystery, and the untamed wild within us all. Now, as we step into the realm of literature, we uncover how the werewolf myth evolved from oral folklore to written tales, leaving an indelible mark on how we perceive these creatures today. One of the earliest and most fascinating literary works featuring a werewolf is Marie de France's By Sclavret, written in the 12th century. This medieval poem tells the story of a nobleman who transforms into a wolf, not by a curse, but by a natural ability tied to his identity. What makes By Sclavret unique is its portrayal of the werewolf as a sympathetic figure, a man trapped between two worlds, struggling to maintain his humanity. This early depiction challenged the idea of werewolves as purely monstrous, introducing themes of loyalty, betrayal, and the complexity of human nature. Moving forward to the 16th century, we encounter a darker and more chilling tale, The Werewolf of Bedburg. This story, based on the real-life case of Peter Stump, a German farmer accused of lycanthropy, reflects the growing fear and superstition surrounding werewolves during the witch trials of medieval Europe. Stump's alleged crimes, including murder and cannibalism, were attributed to his supposed transformation into a wolf, fueled by a pact with the devil. This narrative reinforced the idea of werewolves as agents of evil, a stark contrast to the more nuanced portrayal in By Sclavret. The story of the Werewolf of Bedburg became a cautionary tale, warning against the dangers of straying from societal norms and the perceived threat of the supernatural. These early literary works played a crucial role in shaping the modern werewolf myth. By Sclavret introduced the concept of the werewolf as a tragic figure, a theme that would later be explored in Gothic and Romantic literature. Meanwhile, The Werewolf of Bedburg cemented the association between werewolves and malevolence, a trope that would dominate horror stories for centuries. Together, these tales laid the groundwork for the duality that defines werewolves in popular culture, both as symbols of untamed nature and as metaphors for the darker aspects of humanity. As we continue our journey, we'll see how these literary foundations influenced the rise of werewolves in Gothic fiction, where they became even more entangled with themes of fear, desire, and the unknown. But for now, let's reflect on how these early stories, born from the pens of medieval and Renaissance writers, continue to shape our understanding of the werewolf, reminding us that these creatures are as much a reflection of our own fears and desires as they are products of myth and imagination. As we venture deeper into the shadows of literary history, the werewolf myth takes on a new form in the world of Gothic fiction. This era, marked by its fascination with the macabre and the mysterious, saw werewolves evolve into powerful symbols of primal fear and forbidden desires. Gothic literature, with its dark castles, brooding atmospheres, and themes of madness and transformation, provided the perfect backdrop for these creatures to thrive. One of the most iconic works of this period is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. While the Phantom himself is not a werewolf, the story's exploration of duality and monstrous transformation echoes the themes central to werewolf lore. The Phantom, like the werewolf, exists on the fringes of society, embodying both terror and tragedy. His struggle with his own monstrous nature mirrors the internal conflict of the werewolf, torn between humanity and savagery. This duality became a hallmark of Gothic fiction, where characters often grapple with their darker selves, reflecting the era's fascination with the thin line between man and monster. Another pivotal work is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, a tale of vampirism that also delves into themes of forbidden desire and transformation. While Carmilla is a vampire, her predatory nature and seductive allure share striking similarities with the werewolf archetype. Both creatures embody the fear of the unknown and the dangers of unchecked desire, themes that resonated deeply with Gothic audiences. The story's exploration of female sexuality and power, often repressed in Victorian society, added a layer of complexity to the monster narrative, paving the way for more nuanced portrayals of werewolves in later literature. In Gothic fiction, werewolves became more than just monsters. They were metaphors for the darker aspects of human nature. They represented the fear of losing control, of giving in to primal instincts, and of the consequences of crossing societal boundaries. These stories often played on the tension between the civilized world and the wild, untamed forces lurking just beneath the surface. The werewolf, as a figure of transformation, became a powerful symbol of this struggle, embodying both the allure and the terror of the unknown. As Gothic literature flourished, so too did the werewolf myth, evolving into a complex and multifaceted symbol. These stories laid the groundwork for the werewolf's enduring presence in horror and fantasy, ensuring that the creature would continue to captivate audiences for generations to come. With this foundation in place, the werewolf was ready to take on new forms in the Romantic era, where it would become a vehicle for exploring even deeper psychological and emotional themes. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's reflect on how Gothic fiction transformed the werewolf from a simple monster into a profound symbol of human fears and desires, forever altering the way we see these creatures of the night. As we step into the 19th century, the werewolf myth undergoes yet another transformation, this time shaped by the sweeping currents of Romanticism. This era, with its emphasis on emotion, individualism, and the sublime, breathed new life into werewolf tales, infusing them with deeper psychological and symbolic layers. Romantic writers saw the werewolf not just as a monster, but as a mirror to the human soul, reflecting the complexities of desire, guilt, and the struggle between civilization and nature. One of the most notable works from this period is Alexander Dumas' The Wolf Leader, a story that blends folklore with romantic ideals. In this tale, the protagonist, Thibault, makes a pact with the devil to gain power, only to find himself cursed with the ability to transform into a wolf. Dumas uses the werewolf as a metaphor for the consequences of unchecked ambition and the corrupting influence of power. Thibault's transformations are not just physical, but also moral, as he grapples with the loss of his humanity. The story's lush, atmospheric prose and exploration of inner turmoil make it a quintessential romantic work, where the werewolf becomes a tragic figure, torn between his desires and his conscience. Another key example is George W. M. Reynolds' Wagner the Werewolf, a serialized novel that captivated readers with its blend of Gothic horror and romantic themes. The protagonist, Wagner, is granted the ability to transform into a wolf in exchange for extended life. But this gift comes at a terrible cost. Reynolds uses the werewolf curse to explore themes of mortality, temptation, and the price of defying natural order. Wagner's transformations are marked by both terror and exhilaration, embodying the romantic fascination with the sublime, the awe-inspiring yet terrifying aspects of existence. The novel's episodic structure and vivid descriptions of Wagner's inner struggles make it a compelling exploration of the human condition, with the werewolf as its central symbol. In these 19th-century works, the werewolf becomes more than a creature of folklore. It becomes a vehicle for exploring the depths of human emotion and the tension between societal expectations and primal instincts. Romantic writers used the werewolf to delve into themes of alienation, the search for identity, and the consequences of defying societal norms. These stories often portrayed the werewolf as a tragic hero, a figure both feared and pitied, whose transformations were as much about the soul as they were about the body. The influence of Romanticism on werewolf literature cannot be overstated. It elevated the werewolf from a simple monster to a complex, multifaceted symbol, capable of embodying the deepest fears and desires of humanity. As we move forward in our exploration, we'll see how these romantic themes continue to shape the werewolf myth, paving the way for its evolution in modern literature and cinema. But for now, let's take a moment to appreciate how the 19th century redefined the werewolf, turning it into a timeless emblem of the human struggle between light and darkness. As we leave the pages of 19th century literature behind, we step into the flickering glow of early cinema, where the werewolf myth found a new medium to captivate audiences. The transition from written word to moving image marked a pivotal moment in the evolution of werewolf lore, bringing these creatures to life in ways that had never been seen before. The silver screen allowed filmmakers to visually depict the terror and tragedy of lycanthropy, creating an immersive experience that would forever cement werewolves in popular culture. One of the earliest known werewolf films is The Werewolf, released in 1913. This silent film, though now lost to time, is believed to have been the first to feature a werewolf as its central character. Set in the American Southwest, the story follows a Navajo woman who transforms into a wolf to seek revenge against white settlers. While the film's portrayal of Native American culture reflects the biases of its time, it represents a significant milestone in cinematic history. The Werewolf introduced audiences to the idea of lycanthropy as a visual spectacle, using early special effects to depict the transformation process. Though primitive by today's standards, these effects were groundbreaking for their time, offering a glimpse into the potential of cinema to bring mythical creatures to life. Fast forward to 1941, and we encounter one of the most iconic werewolf films of all time, The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. as the tragic Larry Talbot. This Universal Pictures classic redefined the werewolf for a new generation. The film's portrayal of Talbot's transformation, complete with groundbreaking makeup by Jack Pierce, became the gold standard for werewolf depictions. Unlike earlier interpretations, The Wolfman emphasized the psychological torment of its protagonist, blending horror with a poignant exploration of guilt and fate. The famous poem recited in the film, "Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright," has since become synonymous with werewolf mythology. What made The Wolfman so enduring was its ability to humanize the monster. Larry Talbot wasn't just a beast. He was a man cursed by forces beyond his control, struggling to retain his humanity. This emotional depth resonated with audiences, making the film a cultural touchstone. Its success spawned sequels and inspired countless imitations, solidifying the werewolf's place in the horror genre. The film also introduced key elements of werewolf lore, such as vulnerability to silver and the transformative power of the full moon, which have become staples in modern depictions. Early cinema didn't just adapt werewolf myths, it expanded them. Filmmakers used the medium to explore new dimensions of the werewolf story, from the visceral horror of transformation to the emotional weight of the curse. These films laid the groundwork for the werewolf's enduring presence in pop culture, proving that the myth was as adaptable to the screen as it had been to the page. As we move forward, we'll see how these cinematic roots continue to influence the portrayal of werewolves in modern horror films, television, and beyond. But for now, let's appreciate how early cinema transformed the werewolf from a creature of folklore into a star of the silver screen. As we step into the realm of modern horror films, the werewolf myth undergoes yet another transformation, this time fueled by advancements in special effects and storytelling. The late 20th century saw a resurgence of interest in werewolves, with filmmakers pushing the boundaries of what these creatures could look like and how their stories could be told. One of the most groundbreaking films of this era is An American Werewolf in London, released in 1981. Directed by John Landis, this film revolutionized the werewolf genre with its innovative use of practical effects, particularly in the transformation scenes. Rick Baker's Oscar-winning makeup and prosthetics brought the agonizing process of turning into a wolf to life in vivid, visceral detail. The film didn't just rely on shock value, it blended horror with dark humor and a poignant exploration of isolation and loss, making it a standout in the genre. Around the same time, another iconic film, The Howling, hit theaters, offering a different take on the werewolf myth. Directed by Joe Dante, this film embraced a more traditional horror approach, with werewolves depicted as savage, predatory creatures. What set The Howling apart was its use of cutting-edge special effects, including animatronics and stop-motion animation, to create some of the most memorable transformation sequences of the era. Both films marked a turning point in how werewolves were portrayed on screen, moving away from the tragic, sympathetic figures of earlier films and embracing a more visceral, terrifying aesthetic. Modern horror films have continued to build on these foundations, using advancements in CGI and digital effects to create even more realistic and horrifying werewolves. Films like Dog Soldiers and Ginger Snaps have explored new themes, from the camaraderie and chaos of a military unit battling werewolves to the metaphor of lycanthropy as a representation of adolescence and female empowerment. These films have expanded the werewolf mythos, proving that the creature's appeal lies in its versatility. Whether as a symbol of primal fear, a metaphor for personal transformation, or simply a terrifying monster, the werewolf remains a staple of horror cinema. The evolution of werewolves in modern horror films isn't just about better effects, it's also about richer storytelling. Filmmakers have used the werewolf myth to explore deeper themes, such as identity, addiction, and the struggle between humanity and animal instinct. This blend of spectacle and substance ensures that werewolves continue to captivate audiences, proving that even in an age of advanced technology, the primal fear of the wolf within still resonates. As we move forward, we'll see how these cinematic innovations have influenced the portrayal of werewolves in television and other media. But for now, let's appreciate how modern horror films have redefined the werewolf for a new generation. Now let's shift our focus to the small screen, where werewolves have found a new home in television. Over the years, TV shows have taken the werewolf myth and reimagined it in ways that resonate with modern audiences, blending horror, drama, and even romance. One of the most iconic examples is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which introduced viewers to Oz, a werewolf with a heart of gold. Played by Seth Green, Oz was a refreshing departure from the monstrous werewolves of old. His struggle with lycanthropy was portrayed as a metaphor for self-control and the challenges of adolescence, making him a relatable and beloved character. The show's unique blend of humor, action, and emotional depth helped redefine werewolves as more than just monsters. They became complex individuals with their own stories to tell. Another standout series, Teen Wolf, took the werewolf myth and turned it into a coming-of-age drama filled with supernatural intrigue. The show followed Scott McCall, a high school student who becomes a werewolf and must navigate the challenges of his new identity while balancing school, friendships, and romance. Teen Wolf leaned heavily into the metaphor of lycanthropy as a representation of teenage angst and transformation, resonating with younger audiences. The series also expanded the werewolf mythos by introducing new lore, such as alpha and beta dynamics, and exploring themes of loyalty, power, and identity. Its success proved that werewolves could thrive in a modern, serialized format, appealing to both horror fans and those looking for character-driven storytelling. Then there's The Originals, a spin-off of The Vampire Diaries, which brought werewolves into a world dominated by vampires and witches. The show introduced the Crescent Wolf Pack, a group of werewolves with a rich history and deep ties to New Orleans. Unlike traditional portrayals, these werewolves were not just mindless beasts, but a proud, ancient lineage with their own culture and struggles. The series explored themes of family, legacy, and survival, giving werewolves a level of depth and complexity rarely seen in supernatural dramas. By weaving werewolves into a larger supernatural tapestry, The Originals showcased their versatility as characters who could hold their own alongside other iconic creatures. Television has allowed werewolves to evolve beyond their horror roots, offering fresh takes on the myth that appeal to a wide range of viewers. Whether it's the emotional depth of Buffy, the teen drama of Teen Wolf, or the intricate world-building of The Originals, these shows have proven that werewolves are more than just monsters. They're symbols of transformation, identity, and the eternal struggle between humanity and the beast within. As we continue to explore the werewolf myth, we'll see how these small screen adaptations have influenced other forms of media, from video games to comic books, keeping the legend alive for new generations. Now, let's step into the world of video games, where werewolves have found a thrilling new playground. Interactive media has taken the werewolf myth to entirely new heights, allowing players to not just watch, but actively participate in the transformation and chaos that comes with lycanthropy. One of the most iconic examples is The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, where players can become werewolves through the Companions faction. This transformation isn't just a cosmetic change, it's a gameplay mechanic that grants enhanced strength, speed, and the ability to terrify enemies. But it also comes with its own set of challenges, like losing the ability to gain rest bonuses or being hunted by vigilant townsfolk. Skyrim's portrayal of werewolves taps into the duality of the myth, letting players experience both the power and the peril of the beast within. Another standout title is The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt, which offers a more nuanced take on werewolves. In this game, werewolves are often tragic figures, cursed individuals struggling with their monstrous nature. One memorable quest involves a werewolf named Morkvarg, whose curse forces him to relive his own death endlessly. The game delves into the emotional and psychological toll of lycanthropy, presenting werewolves as complex characters rather than mere enemies to defeat. This approach adds depth to the mythos, showing how video games can explore themes of identity, morality, and redemption in ways that other media cannot. Video games have also expanded the werewolf mythos by introducing unique lore and mechanics. For instance, in Werewolf: The Apocalypse Earthblood, players step into the role of a Garu, a warrior tasked with defending the natural world from supernatural threats. The game blends action with environmental themes, using werewolves as symbols of primal rage and ecological balance. Meanwhile, titles like Bloodborne take a darker, more surreal approach, with werewolf-like creatures embodying the game's themes of transformation and madness. These games push the boundaries of the werewolf myth, offering fresh perspectives and innovative gameplay experiences. What makes video games particularly fascinating is their ability to immerse players in the werewolf experience. Unlike movies or books, games allow you to control the transformation, to feel the rush of hunting under a full moon, or to wrestle with the moral dilemmas of being a monster. This interactivity has not only expanded the werewolf mythos, but also deepened our connection to it, making the legend more personal and impactful. As we move forward, we'll see how these digital interpretations have influenced other forms of media, from comic books to modern urban legends, keeping the werewolf myth alive and evolving for new generations. Now, let's shift our focus to the pages of comic books, where werewolves have carved out a unique space, blending the terror of horror with the allure of heroism. In the world of Marvel Comics, one of the most iconic werewolf characters is Jack Russell, also known as Werewolf by Night. Introduced in the early 1970s, Jack is a tragic figure cursed with lycanthropy, transforming into a werewolf under the full moon. What makes his story compelling is the constant struggle between his human conscience and his monstrous instincts. Unlike traditional horror tales where werewolves are purely villains, Jack often fights to protect others, even in his beastly form. This duality makes him a fascinating character, embodying both the fear and the potential for redemption that lies at the heart of the werewolf myth. Over at DC Comics, another standout is Man-Bat, a character who, while not a werewolf in the traditional sense, shares many thematic similarities. Dr. Kirk Langstrom, a scientist experimenting with bat DNA, accidentally transforms himself into a monstrous bat-like creature. Like werewolves, Man-Bat grapples with the loss of control and the struggle to retain his humanity. His story often explores themes of scientific hubris and the consequences of tampering with nature, adding a layer of moral complexity to his character. While Man-Bat may not howl at the moon, his narrative echoes the same tension between man and monster that defines werewolf lore. What sets comic book werewolves apart is their ability to straddle the line between horror and heroism. These characters are not just monsters to be feared, they are often protagonists with rich backstories and emotional depth. They challenge the notion that lycanthropy is purely a curse, showing that even those afflicted with the beast within can fight for good. This blend of horror and heroism has resonated with readers for decades, offering a fresh take on the werewolf myth that goes beyond simple scares. Comic books have also used werewolves to explore broader themes, such as identity, prejudice, and the struggle for self-control. For instance, in some storylines, werewolves are portrayed as misunderstood outcasts, reflecting societal fears of the other. This metaphorical use of the werewolf myth allows comics to tackle real-world issues in a way that feels both entertaining and thought-provoking. By giving these creatures depth and humanity, comic books have redefined what it means to be a werewolf, transforming them from mere monsters into complex, relatable characters. As we turn the page to the next chapter of our exploration, we'll see how these comic book interpretations have influenced other forms of media, from television to modern urban legends, ensuring that the werewolf myth continues to evolve and captivate audiences in new and exciting ways. Now, let's delve into the fascinating psychological interpretations of werewolves, where these creatures become more than just monsters. They become mirrors reflecting our deepest fears and desires. At the core of the werewolf myth lies the theme of duality, the eternal struggle between the civilized self and the untamed beast within. This duality resonates deeply with the human experience, as we all grapple with balancing our rational, controlled side with our primal, instinctual urges. The werewolf, in many ways, embodies this internal conflict, making it a powerful symbol in psychological storytelling. One of the most compelling aspects of werewolf lore is its exploration of repressed desires. The transformation into a werewolf often represents the unleashing of hidden, darker impulses that society forces us to suppress. In this sense, the werewolf becomes a metaphor for the parts of ourselves we fear to acknowledge: our anger, our lust, our hunger for power. Stories of lycanthropy often depict characters who are horrified by their own actions during transformation, only to wake up with no memory of their deeds. This amnesia mirrors the way we sometimes disown or deny our own darker thoughts and actions, creating a rich psychological tension. The struggle between humanity and savagery is another key theme in werewolf narratives. The werewolf's transformation is not just physical, but also psychological, as the individual battles to retain their sense of self while being consumed by their animalistic nature. This struggle can be seen as a metaphor for the human condition, where we constantly strive to maintain our moral compass in the face of temptation and chaos. The werewolf's curse is not just about becoming a monster, it's about the fear of losing control, of surrendering to the chaos within. Psychologically, werewolves also symbolize the fear of the unknown and the uncontrollable. The unpredictability of the transformation, often tied to the full moon, reflects our anxiety about the parts of ourselves we cannot fully understand or control. This fear is amplified by the idea that the werewolf's transformation is involuntary, suggesting that our darker impulses might one day overpower us without warning. It's a chilling reminder of the fragility of our self-control and the ever-present potential for chaos in our lives. Interestingly, werewolf stories also explore the concept of identity. The transformation forces characters to confront questions about who they truly are. Are they the person they know themselves to be, or are they the monster they become? This existential crisis is a central theme in many psychological interpretations of werewolves, as it challenges the notion of a fixed, stable identity. Instead, it suggests that identity is fluid, shaped by both our choices and the forces beyond our control. As we peel back the layers of the werewolf myth, it becomes clear that these creatures are more than just figures of horror. They are profound symbols of the human psyche, representing our deepest fears, desires, and struggles. By exploring these psychological themes, werewolf stories invite us to confront the beast within ourselves, asking us to consider what it truly means to be human. And as we move forward, we'll see how these psychological interpretations have influenced modern portrayals of werewolves, ensuring that their symbolic power continues to resonate with audiences today. Shifting our focus, let's explore how werewolves have served as powerful social metaphors throughout history, reflecting the anxieties and tensions of the societies that created them. One of the most prominent themes is the fear of the other, the outsider who threatens the established order. In many werewolf stories, the creature is depicted as an outsider, someone who doesn't fit into the norms of society. This mirrors real-world fears of those who are different, whether due to race, class, or cultural background. The werewolf becomes a symbol of the unknown, the unfamiliar, and the dangerous, embodying the fear of what lies beyond the boundaries of the community. Class struggles also find their way into werewolf narratives. In some tales, the transformation into a werewolf is tied to poverty or social marginalization, suggesting that the beast within is unleashed by the pressures of inequality. For example, in certain European folklore, werewolves are often portrayed as peasants or outcasts, their monstrous transformations a reflection of their desperate circumstances. This connection between lycanthropy and class highlights how societal structures can dehumanize individuals, turning them into something feared and reviled. The werewolf, in this context, becomes a tragic figure, a victim of the very society that fears them. Another key social metaphor in werewolf stories is the loss of control. The involuntary nature of the transformation, often triggered by the full moon, symbolizes the fear of losing autonomy over one's actions and identity. This resonates with broader societal anxieties about control, whether it's the fear of losing control over one's life, one's community, or even one's body. In a world where power dynamics are constantly shifting, the werewolf serves as a reminder of how fragile that control can be. The idea that anyone could become a monster under the right conditions taps into a deep-seated fear of chaos and unpredictability. Werewolf stories also explore the tension between individuality and conformity. The werewolf's dual nature, part human, part beast, reflects the struggle to maintain one's identity in the face of societal pressures to conform. This theme is particularly relevant in modern interpretations, where the werewolf often represents the outsider who refuses to be tamed or assimilated. By embracing their monstrous side, these characters challenge the status quo, forcing society to confront its own prejudices and fears. As we've seen, werewolves are more than just monsters, they are mirrors reflecting the fears and tensions of the societies that create them. Whether symbolizing the fear of the other, the struggles of class, or the loss of control, these creatures offer a rich tapestry of social commentary. And as we move forward, we'll see how these metaphors continue to evolve, shaping the way we understand and interpret the world around us. Now, let's turn our attention to how werewolf stories have long been intertwined with societal views on gender, offering a fascinating lens into the expectations and anxieties surrounding masculinity and femininity. In many traditional werewolf tales, the transformation into a beast is deeply tied to ideas of masculinity, often portraying the werewolf as a hyper-masculine figure. This archetype reflects societal fears about unchecked male aggression and the primal, animalistic side of manhood. The werewolf's strength, ferocity, and uncontrollable nature become metaphors for the dangers of male power when it's left unbridled. At the same time, these stories often explore the tension between civilization and savagery, suggesting that even the most refined man can succumb to his baser instincts under the right or wrong conditions. On the flip side, female werewolves have historically been far less common in folklore and literature, but when they do appear, their stories carry unique weight. In many cases, female werewolves challenge traditional gender roles, embodying traits like independence, strength, and defiance, qualities that were often seen as threatening in patriarchal societies. For example, in some tales, a woman's transformation into a werewolf is linked to her rejection of societal expectations, such as marriage or domesticity. Her monstrous form becomes a symbol of her refusal to conform, a powerful statement against the constraints placed on women. This duality, both empowering and terrifying, highlights the complex ways in which gender roles are portrayed and questioned in werewolf narratives. Interestingly, modern interpretations of werewolves have expanded on these themes, often blurring the lines between traditional gender roles. In contemporary stories, female werewolves are no longer relegated to the sidelines, but are instead central figures who embody both strength and vulnerability. These characters often grapple with the same struggles as their male counterparts: loss of control, identity crises, and the fear of harming others, but their experiences are uniquely shaped by their gender. For instance, a female werewolf might struggle with the societal expectation to be nurturing and gentle, even as her transformation forces her to confront her own capacity for violence and power. At the same time, male werewolves in modern narratives are increasingly portrayed with more nuance, moving beyond the archetype of the hyper-masculine beast. These characters often explore themes of vulnerability, emotional depth, and the struggle to reconcile their human and animal sides. This shift reflects broader cultural changes in how masculinity is understood, challenging the idea that strength and aggression are the only defining traits of manhood. By presenting male werewolves as complex, multifaceted individuals, these stories invite us to rethink traditional notions of gender and power. Ultimately, werewolf stories serve as a powerful mirror for societal views on gender, offering a space to explore and challenge the expectations placed on both men and women. Whether through the lens of hypermasculinity, female defiance, or the blurring of traditional roles, these narratives continue to evolve, reflecting the changing dynamics of gender in our own world. And as we'll see next, the enduring appeal of werewolves extends far beyond gender, shaping how we understand everything from folklore to modern urban legends. But as we move from the pages of folklore and literature into the realm of modern urban legends, the werewolf myth takes on a new life, one that feels closer to home. In recent decades, reports of werewolf-like creatures have continued to surface, blending the ancient fear of the beast with the eerie uncertainty of the unknown. These contemporary sightings and stories not only keep the werewolf myth alive, but also adapt it to fit the anxieties and curiosities of our modern world. One of the most famous examples is the Beast of Bray Road, a creature said to roam the rural areas of Wisconsin, described as a large, wolf-like being with humanoid features. The beast has been the subject of numerous eyewitness accounts since the 1980s. Witnesses often describe it as standing on two legs, with glowing eyes and a menacing presence. What makes this legend so compelling is its grounding in real-world locations and the sheer number of people who claim to have encountered it. The Beast of Bray Road taps into our primal fear of the unknown lurking just beyond the edges of civilization, a fear that has always been at the heart of werewolf stories. Similarly, the Michigan dogman has captured the imagination of many, with sightings dating back to the late 1980s. This creature, often described as a hybrid of man and wolf, is said to stalk the forests of Michigan, leaving behind a trail of eerie encounters and chilling tales. The legend gained widespread attention through a popular song by Steve Cook, which recounted the creature's supposed appearances. Like the Beast of Bray Road, the Michigan dogman embodies the tension between the familiar and the monstrous, reminding us that the line between human and beast may be thinner than we think. What's fascinating about these modern urban legends is how they echo the themes of ancient werewolf myths while reflecting contemporary fears. In a world where technology and science dominate, these stories remind us that there are still mysteries that defy explanation. They also highlight our enduring fascination with the idea of transformation, whether it's the physical metamorphosis of a person into a beast or the psychological transformation of fear into legend. Moreover, these tales thrive in the age of the internet, where stories can spread rapidly and take on a life of their own. Online forums, social media, and even podcasts have become fertile ground for sharing and embellishing werewolf sightings, ensuring that the myth continues to evolve. This digital age has given rise to a new kind of folklore, one where eyewitness accounts, blurry photographs, and eerie videos keep the legend alive in ways that ancient storytellers could never have imagined. Ultimately, modern urban legends like the Beast of Bray Road and the Michigan dogman serve as a testament to the enduring power of the werewolf myth. They remind us that, even in an age of reason and technology, there's still room for the mysterious and the unexplained. And as we'll see next, this fascination with the unknown extends beyond folklore and into the realm of cryptozoology, where science and myth collide in the search for answers. Now, as we venture into the realm of cryptozoology, the search for werewolves takes on a more scientific, or perhaps pseudoscientific tone. Cryptozoology, the study of creatures whose existence is not yet proven by mainstream science, has long been fascinated by the idea of werewolves. While skeptics dismiss these sightings as misidentifications or hoaxes, cryptozoologists propose intriguing theories to explain the enduring reports of wolf-like creatures with human traits. One of the most compelling theories suggests that werewolf sightings could be linked to undiscovered species. Could there be a real animal, perhaps a large, bipedal canine, that has managed to evade scientific classification? Some researchers point to the possibility of a surviving population of prehistoric predators, such as the dire wolf, which roamed North America thousands of years ago. Others speculate about the existence of a hybrid species, a genetic anomaly that combines traits of wolves and humans. While these ideas remain speculative, they highlight the tantalizing possibility that nature still holds secrets we have yet to uncover. Another angle explored by cryptozoologists involves genetic mutations. Could werewolf sightings be the result of rare genetic conditions that cause extreme hair growth or physical deformities? Conditions like hypertrichosis, sometimes called werewolf syndrome, can lead to excessive hair covering the face and body, giving individuals a strikingly wolf-like appearance. In the past, people with such conditions were often ostracized or even feared as monsters, fueling legends of werewolves. This theory bridges the gap between myth and reality, suggesting that some werewolf stories may have been inspired by real people with extraordinary medical conditions. Cryptozoologists also consider the role of psychological and environmental factors. In remote, densely forested areas, the combination of low visibility, unfamiliar animal sounds, and the human tendency to see patterns in chaos could lead to misidentifications. A large bear or wolf, seen briefly under poor lighting, might be mistaken for a werewolf. Additionally, folklore and cultural beliefs can shape how people interpret what they see, turning an ordinary animal into a supernatural creature in their minds. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the field of cryptozoology keeps the werewolf myth alive by offering plausible, if unproven, explanations. It invites us to consider the boundaries between science and legend, challenging us to question what we think we know about the natural world. And as we'll see next, this fascination with the unknown extends beyond cryptozoology, influencing how werewolves are portrayed in popular culture, from music to fashion and beyond. Now, shifting our focus to the cultural landscape, werewolves have carved out a unique and enduring place in popular culture, especially during Halloween. These creatures of the night have become synonymous with the spooky season, appearing everywhere from costumes and decorations to themed events and haunted attractions. Their transformation from ancient myth to modern icon is a testament to their timeless appeal as symbols of fear, mystery, and the primal side of human nature. One of the most visible ways werewolves have permeated popular culture is through Halloween traditions. Every year, countless people don wolf masks, fake fur, and clawed gloves to embody the werewolf archetype. From children trick or treating to adults attending costume parties, the werewolf remains a favorite choice, offering a blend of terror and excitement. Decorations featuring snarling werewolves, glowing eyes, and full moons adorn homes and streets, creating an atmosphere of eerie anticipation. Themed events, such as werewolf-themed escape rooms or haunted hayrides, further cement their role as Halloween staples, drawing crowds eager to experience the thrill of the legend. But why do werewolves continue to captivate us? Part of their appeal lies in their duality, the struggle between human and beast, civilization and savagery. This tension resonates deeply, reflecting our own fears and desires. Werewolves embody the idea of losing control, of giving in to primal instincts, which makes them both terrifying and fascinating. They also serve as a metaphor for transformation, a theme that resonates universally, whether it's personal growth, societal change, or the passage of time. Beyond Halloween, werewolves have also found a home in literature, film, and television, where they are reimagined in countless ways. From tragic anti-heroes to fearsome villains, their versatility as characters ensures they remain relevant across genres. This adaptability has allowed werewolves to evolve with the times, reflecting contemporary fears and values while retaining their core essence as creatures of the night. As we move forward, it's clear that werewolves are more than just monsters. They are cultural icons that continue to shape our stories and traditions. Their enduring presence in popular culture speaks to their ability to tap into something primal and universal within us. And as we'll explore next, this fascination extends even further, influencing music, art, and fashion in ways that keep the werewolf myth alive and thriving. Now, turning our attention to the world of music, werewolves have howled their way into songs and lyrics, becoming a powerful symbol in various genres. Music has a unique ability to capture the essence of the werewolf myth, blending its primal energy with storytelling and emotion. One of the most iconic examples is Warren Zevon's 1978 hit, Werewolves of London. With its catchy piano riff and darkly humorous lyrics, the song paints a vivid picture of a suave, yet terrifying werewolf prowling the streets. It's a playful take on the legend, showing how the myth can be both eerie and entertaining. But werewolves aren't just confined to rock and pop. Heavy metal bands, in particular, have embraced the werewolf as a symbol of raw power and rebellion. Take Powerwolf, for instance, a band that has made the werewolf a central theme in their music. Their songs often feature growling vocals, thunderous drums, and lyrics that evoke the ferocity and mystique of the werewolf. For them, the creature represents untamed strength and a break from societal norms, themes that resonate deeply with their audience. Beyond these examples, werewolves have also appeared in folk music, where they often serve as metaphors for transformation and the darker aspects of human nature. In some traditional ballads, the werewolf is a tragic figure, cursed and misunderstood, reflecting themes of isolation and inner conflict. These songs tap into the emotional core of the myth, reminding us that the werewolf is more than just a monster. It's a reflection of our own struggles and fears. What makes music such a powerful medium for werewolf stories is its ability to evoke mood and atmosphere. The howl of a guitar, the pounding of drums, or the haunting melody of a ballad can all transport listeners into the world of the werewolf, making the myth feel immediate and visceral. Whether it's through the playful energy of Werewolves of London or the intense ferocity of a Powerwolf anthem, music keeps the legend alive, proving that the werewolf's howl still echoes in our ears. As we've seen, werewolves have left their mark not just on Halloween and storytelling, but also on the rhythms and melodies of music. And as we'll explore next, their influence extends even further, inspiring fashion, art, and visual culture in ways that continue to captivate and terrify us. Moving from the world of music, let's step into the realm of fashion and art, where the werewolf's influence is just as striking. Werewolves have long been a source of inspiration for designers, tattoo artists, and visual creators, their primal energy and transformative symbolism lending themselves to bold, evocative expressions. In fashion, the werewolf has become a recurring motif, often representing rebellion, mystery, and the untamed spirit. From runway collections featuring fur accents and claw-like accessories to streetwear adorned with snarling wolf imagery, the werewolf's aesthetic has carved out a unique niche in the fashion world. These designs often play on the duality of the creature, elegant yet savage, human yet beast, creating a tension that resonates with those who dare to embrace their wild side. Tattoo art, too, has embraced the werewolf as a powerful symbol. For many, a werewolf tattoo is more than just a striking image, it's a personal statement. The creature's themes of transformation, strength, and inner conflict make it a popular choice for those seeking to express their own struggles or triumphs. Whether it's a hyper-realistic depiction of a snarling wolf mid-transformation or a more abstract design hinting at the duality of man and beast, these tattoos capture the myth's emotional depth and raw power. They serve as permanent reminders of the wearer's connection to the primal forces within and the stories that have shaped their identity. In the world of fine art, werewolves have been a subject of fascination for centuries. Artists have used the creature to explore themes of identity, fear, and the blurred line between humanity and monstrosity. From classical paintings depicting the tragic figure of Lycaon to modern digital art showcasing werewolves in urban landscapes, the myth continues to evolve, reflecting the anxieties and aspirations of each era. The werewolf's visual appeal lies in its ability to embody both terror and beauty, making it a compelling subject for artists who seek to challenge and captivate their audience. What makes werewolves so enduring in fashion and art is their ability to tap into universal themes. They represent the struggle between civilization and instinct, the fear of losing control, and the allure of embracing one's darker nature. These themes resonate across cultures and generations, ensuring that the werewolf remains a powerful symbol in visual culture. As we'll see next, this influence extends even further, shaping how werewolves are perceived and celebrated around the world. Now, let's take a journey across the globe to explore how different cultures have shaped their own versions of the werewolf myth. While the image of a man transforming into a wolf under the full moon is familiar to many, the concept of shape-shifting creatures with animalistic traits appears in countless forms around the world. These stories, though unique to their regions, often share striking similarities, revealing universal themes of transformation, fear, and the struggle between humanity and the wild. In Navajo culture, the skinwalker is a figure steeped in both fear and reverence. Unlike the European werewolf, the skinwalker is not bound by the moon's phases. Instead, it is a person who has gained the ability to transform into animals through dark rituals and forbidden magic. Often depicted as a wolf or coyote, the skinwalker is seen as a malevolent force, using its powers to harm others and spread chaos. This myth reflects deep cultural fears about the misuse of power and the consequences of straying from traditional values. The skinwalker's ability to shift forms also speaks to the Navajo belief in the interconnectedness of all living things, blurring the lines between human and animal, good and evil. Traveling to the Philippines, we encounter the aswang, a creature that embodies both terror and mystery. The aswang is a shapeshifter, often taking the form of a dog, cat, or even a bird, but its true nature is far more sinister. By day, it may appear as an ordinary person, but by night, it transforms to prey on the living, particularly targeting pregnant women and their unborn children. The aswang myth reflects societal anxieties about the unknown and the vulnerability of life. It also highlights the duality of appearance and reality, as the creature hides its monstrous nature behind a human facade. This theme of hidden danger resonates deeply, making the aswang a lasting figure in Filipino folklore. In Brazil, the lobisomem is a creature that bears a closer resemblance to the European werewolf. According to legend, the lobisomem is a man cursed to transform into a wolf-like beast, often during the full moon. However, Brazilian folklore adds its own unique twist. The firstborn son of a family with many daughters is said to be particularly susceptible to this curse. The lobisomem's story reflects fears of inherited curses and the loss of control over one's own body. It also underscores the tension between societal expectations and primal instincts, as the cursed individual struggles to reconcile their human identity with their animalistic urges. What ties these diverse myths together is their exploration of transformation and fear. Whether it's the skinwalker's dark magic, the aswang's predatory deception, or the lobisomem's cursed existence, each story delves into the human experience of confronting the unknown and the uncontrollable. These tales remind us that the werewolf, in all its forms, is more than just a monster. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears and desires. As we'll see next, this universal appeal has ensured that the werewolf myth continues to evolve, captivating audiences across cultures and generations. From the ancient myths of Lycaon to the modern tales of the Beast of Bray Road, the werewolf has endured as one of humanity's most captivating monsters. Across cultures and centuries, these creatures have taken on countless forms, from cursed men to shape-shifting predators, yet they all share a common thread: the exploration of transformation, fear, and the thin line between humanity and the wild. Whether as a symbol of primal instincts, societal anxieties, or the struggle for control, the werewolf myth has evolved to reflect the fears and desires of every generation. What makes the werewolf so enduring? Perhaps it's the universal fear of losing control, of giving in to our darker impulses. Or maybe it's the allure of transformation, the idea that within each of us lies the potential for something more, something powerful, dangerous, and untamed. The werewolf is more than just a monster. It's a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears, our hidden desires, and our eternal fascination with the unknown. So, what do werewolves reveal about us? Do they symbolize the struggle between civilization and chaos? Or do they embody the fear of the other, the outsider, the beast within? The answer may be different for everyone, and that's what makes the werewolf myth so endlessly compelling. It invites us to confront our own fears, to question what it means to be human, and to explore the wild, untamed parts of ourselves. Now it's your turn. What's your favorite werewolf story or myth? Do you see these creatures as symbols of fear, freedom, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this journey through the history of werewolves, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the monsters that haunt our imaginations. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows. You never know what you might find.